Do here. It's the only song I think that I've recorded more than once, and it's definitely the only song I've recorded 3 times. I know that for a fact. I recorded it. I wrote it in 1977, which was several years before I made records. I sang it the first time at the Kerrville Folk Festival and New Folk Concert in '77, and I didn't make a record until 1982. And that was a 4-cut EP, and then that kind of got me a record deal, and we made an album, expanded that into an album. This song was on the expanded version of that album, but that album, a couple of singles were released from it on one label in Nashville that signed me, a major label, and a couple of singles died horrible deaths high in the country charts, and the record was subsequently shelved because that's what happens. And I was dropped by the record label because that's also what happens. And I was lucky enough to get another record deal with a label across the street. And made another record called Guitar Town that did better. And the record that I made for the other label that was sitting on the shelf, suddenly, just as my second record for the new label was getting ready to come out, it was decided that the record across the street, sitting there on the shelf, had healed and is somehow worthy of being released now. And so it came out just as my second record for the new label was coming out, because that's also what happens. And I was glad to see that material see the light of day. This particular song, I wasn't totally happy with the version on that record, so I recorded it again on another record a few years later called Copperhead Road. And that version, we did it that way for a long time, and we played that way for a lot of years. Then, just a few years ago, not that long ago, 8 years ago, something like that, I was asked to record it yet a third time for a film called Brokeback Mountain, and it was an honor to be part of, and I was asked to record. The film takes place over 25 years, and I was asked to record a version of the song that would work being played on a jukebox in a scene that was set in the 70s. And I think because I was asked to set it in the decade it was actually written in, I finally got a recorded version of it that I like. So I'd recommend the version on the Brokeback soundtrack of this particular song. When I wrote it and began singing it in 1977, people would hear the song and say, "That's a gun control song." And I would argue with them because at the time I wrote this song, I had a whole trailer full of guns. I grew up in Texas, hunting and fishing, and I was a hippie. I was a peacenik. My dad got in a lot of trouble because I was singing on the Channel 5 News, singing "Feel Like I'm Fixing to Die" rag when I was 14 years old in front of the fucking Alamo. And, my dad was air traffic controller, worked for the government, so it got him into a little bit of trouble. But I didn't see anything incongruous in the culture I grew up in being a peacenik with a fucking arsenal in his house. But things evolve and change, hopefully. And what happened to me personally is I had to start my whole life over again 19 years ago. And one of the first things that happened when I got clean, got out of jail, was my ex-wife handed me a completely out of control teenage boy and said, "Here, you might have met him." And the first thing Justin did when he got back at my house is he went in, he was 13 or 14, and I had no idea how he found it, because I had a lot of guns in the house. Most of them were under law, but one were under lock and key. But one 9mm pistol was hidden under my mattress, fully loaded. And that's what I was taught. It doesn't do you any good to have a gun for self-defense if it's not loaded and ready. So Justin found it, I don't know how, and he hid it. And I asked him if he had it, and he lied. And I knew he had it, I knew he was lying. I still know when he's lying. And I just didn't know what else to do. You're not doing your best parenting at 3 or 4 months clean. So the only plan I could come up with was to make sure Justin was where the gun wasn't. So I called my brother, and he came over, and we strip searched Justin, made sure he did not have the gun, and then we loaded him in my truck. It was like trying to get a live deer into your vehicle. And we took him to a wilderness camp, it was called. It was a wilderness program, and I'm not proud of this. They were hiring these kids out for slave labor to the state parks department and making a profit. But I didn't know what else to do. And it was January, it's cold, but I drove him out there, kicking and screaming, and I wrote him a check and I dropped him off. Now, it was January, so 4:30 the next morning, he called me and told me where the fucking gun was.